Hello everyone. Before we dive into the video, let's proceed through a quick case. Visualize yourself as someone who has arranged funds for the down payment of a new house or a new car. You are confident that you will be able to secure a bank loan and the bankers are responding positively to your loan request. You are ecstatic for your big purchase, that is the new house or the new car. But as it happens, right before the sanction of your loan, your banker demands a few blank checks. You find this odd, and a million different questions pop up in your mind. Amid all the stress and anxiety, you worry about possibly getting scammed. You wonder, why are banks specifically asking for blank checks? Is it a legal practice? What will they be used for? Can I deny blank checks? This was just an analogy, but we've encountered a lot of people who are not financially literate enough to know the reasons behind these things. And in order to save everyone from the stress and anxiety, I will be answering all the pertinent questions regarding blank checks. And I would like to extend my gratitude to Dr. Narendra Kumar Nigam for his guidance. I am Aryan Jain and you're watching Derivatives and Finance by Dr. Narendra Kumar Nigam. This video is divided into 4 parts. In the first part, we'll answer all the questions relevant to blank checks. Second, we'll be looking for a few best practices while handing over a blank check. Then, we've got a section for those of you who might want to scam the bank instead, and what are the consequences of such ingenious acts. And finally, in the fourth section, we'll look at the latest developments in Negotiable Instruments Act 1881. We have provided relevant timestamps in the video so you can navigate comfortably. Starting off with the frequently asked questions, we first need to understand what exactly are blank checks. So, a blank check, in the literal sense, is a check that has no monetary value written in it, but it is already signed. Now, the first question that most of you would think of is that why do banks want us to deposit blank checks while taking a loan? So there are two primary reasons why banks collect blank checks. The first reason is intentional default purposes. If you default on your installments due to insufficient funds, the bank will fill these checks with the required amount and date and deposit them. Since you do not have the required funds, these checks will be bounced. Bouncing of checks is a criminal act as per section 138 of Negotiable Instruments Act 1881. Now the bank can file a case and take matters to quasi-court instead of a civil court. Quasi-court is a mix of civil and criminal court which prompts greater punishment for defaulters involving up to 2 years of prison and a fine which may be extended up to twice the amount of check. While in civil court, the judge only orders payments of damages. While the second reason is unintentional, that is non-default purposes. Generally, blank checks are taken from the borrower as they may make mistakes while writing on the checks regarding the amount, the date, or their signatures and make the checks obsolete. Now you might think, are blank checks legal? So, there are no laws that state otherwise. Hence, due to it being in the regulatory vacuum, banks demanding blank checks is a legal practice in locations where ECS or RECS facilities are not available. ECS is an electronic mode of payment or receipt for transactions that are repetitive and periodic in nature, like loan EMIs, which are paid monthly. Now you would think, alright, if there are no laws that state otherwise, can I, as a loan taker, deny depositing blank checks? So, according to the RBI guidelines, banks are advised not to ask for blank checks in locations where the facilities of ECS or RECS are available. Here, you may deny blank checks and opt for ECS or RECS mandate. But in case you reside where facilities of ECS or RECS is not available, you will have to deposit checks complying with CTS 2010 standard formats. Otherwise, the bank may decline your loan application as per their policy. You most definitely do not want to get your loan rejected. So we have covered the best policies while handing over a blank check in the later part of the video. Finally, let's look into whether we can file a complaint against a bank if they insist on submitting blank checks. You have the right to ask for a reason for taking a blank check from the branch manager. In case of dissatisfaction, you can forward your concern to the regional office of the bank. They may say that they need the check for security purposes. You should always rebut that comment by saying that they would anyway have some collateral or security against the loan. Even if they do not, if an ECS facility is available, then asking for checks is unnecessary, as ECS default attracts the same repercussions as a check bounce as per NI Act. Now that all your questions are answered, you might wonder, what if bank loses my blank check and it is misused by someone else? In this case, and in order to avoid any mishaps, we will now move on to this section where we'll explain all the precautions to be followed while submitting blank checks. The bank might ask you to leave everything else blank but your signature on the check. Ask your banker if it's okay to enter the payee name and the maximum amount. There are two reasons behind it. The first is that if the name of the payee who is bound to receive the payment is mentioned, then no one else can avail the check. And number two, if the maximum amount is mentioned besides the signature, then the bank can't withdraw more than the entered amount. Even if the bank says that we do not need to fill the above fields, we need not to worry if we do the following two things. Again, the first thing is to always ask for a receipt of the blank checks with the check numbers mentioned in it. We should also ask the bank to attest the same in the list of documents received letter prepared by the bank itself. In case your loan has already been sanctioned and you did not get it attested, you can mail them and ask them to verify the same. If they do not reply to your mail, you should send 2 to 3 follow-up mails, and in case they are also unanswered, you should immediately file an FIR, which will save you from any future hassle. The final thing you need to do in order to be safe is to always remember to collect your blank checks when you repay your loan in full. Now, many of you might think, who would want to mail or ask for bank receipts? Can't I just put a stop order on my check? Or someone with ill intentions who does not want to repay the loan might be thinking, what if I close my bank account? That way, the banks will not be able to collect any money from me. In case you are out of money and you can't repay your bank loan, you might think of putting a stop order on your blank check, or you might again think of closing your bank account so that you do not need to pay the EMI, or instead there is no means for bank to collect your EMI. These decisions, which are more often than not taken out of fear, might result in you ending up in the criminal court instead of possible negotiations. Well, in this third part, we'll be discussing what not to do in case you're out of funds and the best course of action. In 1990, the Supreme Court quoted, if due to any reason your check is bounced and the payment is not made, you'll be given a grace period of 15 days, where if you again do not make the payment, you will be charged under Section 138 of NI Act 1881, which is a criminal offence. Similarly, Honorable Bombay High Court supported the proposition that while holding any drawer liable under Section 138, the court should first see whether the payment was made to the drawee within 15 days of notice or not. The reason for dishonor is immaterial, because if the drawee is bona fide, then he must have made the payment within the grace period of 15 days. Hence, we can safely conclude that if due to any reason your check is bounced, you will be given a grace period of 15 days, after which you will be charged under Section 138 of NI Act 1881. Instead, in case you don't have sufficient funds to repay the loan and the bank has given you notices to repay, you can try to negotiate with the bank for a haircut on the loan and settle it. Banks practically prefer giving haircuts to settle the loan instead of taking them to the court as a last resort. Moving ahead to the fourth section, we'll now be discussing the latest developments in NI Act. Under Section 138A and Section 148A, it is now mandatory for the defaulters to deposit a minimum of 20% fine in appeal against conviction under NI Act. If, for example, I had to make a payment of 1000 rupees but my check is bounced, I'll have to pay 200 rupees upfront as a fine. This will help reduce defaulters, since now they'll have to pay fine even before the court announces their judgment. To conclude, handing over a blank check is not a subject of stress if you follow the directions shared by us in the video. you should rejoice in your achievement of getting the loan for purchasing a car, a home, or any other asset. I hope this video helped you and you were able to take away something from it.